like, someone's got to be out there. We just got a like joking buyout offer, and I'm debating it. I might sell this company for $400. Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, and challenging norms. I'm trying to adjust my setup as we speak because we just rip.
We got Moss, baby. Look at that.
Java
Watch us
Moss,
on
dude.
YouTube. We got Indonesian Java Moss. How about that? Pop, I want to be better. I want to be an entertainer. I want to be more like Chris D'Elia. I want to use hands. I want to use feet.
Fuck, dude.
And I think we should watch out. What are you doing?
I'm back, baby.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, here's the thing,
we could do those.
Dude. I don't know where you draw the line, right? Because where do you separate the man and the comedian?
I don't actually know what happened to him.
This yawn? I don't really either. So that kind of helps. Ignorance is bliss. But I think he just hit on people that were like 18 years old, so they were borderline, and I don't know, flirting's weird. But he's so fucking funny, and everyone was sleeping on him because they're like, Chris D'Elia, like I've kind of heard bad things down the rabbit hole, and it's like, no, one, you're not in the rabbit hole. Two, you got to see his roast, dude.
He was practicing. What are we talking about, Pop? Other than Chris D'Elia and all the compilations we watch.
Hey, I try to watch the last episode to see where we're at. I can't even speak, dude. Where we're at. And the last thing we had was, I think, Ollie Army. Did we call it Ollie Army? We basically hinted at, oh, you're frozen.
I'm frozen.
What? Me.
You, Pop. Where are you going? You can't just leave the podcast, Pop.
Can you please? I figured, I'm going to give this one to Belky. I'm just going to leave. He's not going to get spooked. He can handle 2 seconds of me off camera.
No.
Clams
Pop,
up, dude.
I'm scared.
You saw
Here's
Billy.
What we need
he
to talk
shoots
about.
his own podcast. So I'm giving you the chance to do it.
I don't get it. There's another good one we listened to. It's called Secret Keepers Club.
Jesus.
It's this woman, Carly Aquilino. She's a comedian. She's kind of like Chris D'Elia. Me and Athena. She has a one-woman show, and she's really good at like repeating sentences, and they get funnier each time, like Chris D'Elia does. He's like, bussin' and cup. What did he say? Something about hanging out. Whatever. He said it 4 times in a row, and it was hilarious each time. So she does the same thing. Maybe she listens to Chris D'Elia. I don't know.
I don't give a fuck. I get bustin' and coming, but hanging? I get bustin' and coming, but hanging?
It's one of those things where he shamelessly doubles down, quadruples down, where like a normal person, say like Right Chris. This isn't, who knows where this podcast is going. We got some good talking points, don't worry. But say Right Chris, which if you haven't seen those shorts, you're in the wrong algorithm.
Oops, we can have this happen right here. The anus Right Chris.
But it's like, if he was just like, oh, I'm turning into Right Chris, like, oh, that's I hate mask wearing. But he's like, he's like, Joe Biden is a lizard. I'm like, dude, gets it. It's just like, if you're gonna do it, it's a high risk, high reward sort of situation. But I don't know how we channel that. Maybe we just don't got it, but he's brilliant. And then you see Brendan Shaw.
You know what we got, Pop? You know what we got? First off, we got a lag. Second off, Pop, we got cash flow problems. All right? And every time...
Yes!
That's a transition.
Every
time.
Was anyone counting good transitions?
Angel, put up the good transition counter. anytime we got cash flow problems pop, we start getting desperate. You would too, all right?
You know,
if you
we're
saw
desperate when we're starting
your
to
credit
DM
cards
people
piling up, we get desperate. So that's what we're talking about, cash flow problems.
Here's what happened, right? So for those of you that haven't been following our journey, which you should be because it's fucking crazy, we had a great agency. We cracked 100K a month in revenue. We were just dialing it up every month, another 10 or 20%, which is awesome. But then we're like, hey, there's this new model. Margins were pretty much the same in theory, but it allowed us to be a lot more flexible. We had this whole month to 2 month transition that was a lot more difficult, almost created the company. We pulled through for the most part. We're still kind of getting 100% back, but we're pretty much there. We anticipated high growth. We didn't get as much growth because we're focused on this transition and fighting all these fires and the insurrection that was happening. So now what happened was we basically doubled our team size and cut, let's just say halved our demand. Not halved. It was like we lost a couple of clients in the process. So we were facing a pretty serious deficit in terms of supply-demand matchup. The problem was we also hired these people under the guise of an agency. So everyone's like, oh, this is an agency. I'm getting paid a salary. And then we did a little swip-de-doodle. And we're like, hey, we're just going to pay you more, but it's not quite agency model. A lot of people didn't like that, but everyone signed up for it. So we felt this guilt of like, you didn't sign up for this, but we'll give you your first client. But after that, you're on your own. And then it's like, if you're worried about security, just save more money. But we're going to try and fill demand and always have you hired because that's what keeps us paid. So we were in this difficult situation of having 20 people, basically, that didn't have a client. And we're actively paying them $500 a week. So it's like $10,000 for no reason every single week. Like we're like, oh my God, we have this huge fucking burn. What do we do with this? And I think, I don't know, one of the last episodes we were talking about having this clip contest. We're like, let's just do like what we do with these little blitzes. Oh, what did we want to do? The first thing that we wanted to do was make just go viral.
I think we talked about all that.
We can go viral. Yeah. Okay, sorry, too much fucking recap. I guess it's more so a recap for me. I don't know what's happened. Right. Belky, this is where you gotta step in and be like, Dylan, too much fucking background here.
Well, I'm writing down other things. Like we gotta hit, as you talk about demand, I'm writing down like people. I'm just remembering we gotta hit up like Westbrook and Donnie David.
Yeah,
David
dude,
D.
multitask. It's not like we're shooting an entertaining podcast.
No, Pop.
When you
gotta
check
hit
out,
it.
the audience checks out. You gotta let me know.
Me?
I got the asp, dude.
Here's what
point being. We have all
give
these
him the
people.
point, Pop.
Yeah, let me just get to the point. The point is we have all these people. The last spot we're at, we're like, hey, what if we did this crazy Ollie blitz? We just put them all on Ollie Abdal because he is that one domino. We're like, if he's stoked and preaches it to his whole audience and his entire part-time YouTuber academy, which is 1,000 to 2,000 people a year paying thousands of dollars, they're going to want to sign up for Clipt. And then our business just booms.
He's our rocket ship, totally so far away from the agency. He like launches us into the marketplace if we can successfully do this. That's why it's so important, Domino, the one thing. All the catchphrases. 80-20? You want that one? It's an 80-20.
But here's the problem, okay? We have this idea. Ollie is not launching this course for another month or so. And, well, two problems, multi-part. One, we realized the best offer for this part-time YouTuber Academy, all those students, it would be basically like all of Ollie Abdal's fans, 10% off, 20% off to whoever buys this course, 30% off to creators with 1,000 plus subs in this course. And then also, if you're in this like upper echelon, which is like 5K, it's the executive group, 50 or so of them. I don't know if we should be revealing their numbers, but fuck it. 50 or so of them, they're paying $5,000 and we're going to give them a 2-week free trial of Clipt to get them hooked.
Ollie builds in public. He reveals all his numbers.
Oh, that's true. Good point. So that's the best offer we came up with. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense. It's like easy 1, 2, 3 for percentage discounts plus a 2-week free trial for execs. And hopefully a bunch of people sign up. Ollie's stoked about it because he gets more signups and students are following through and actually being successful. The problem is when I started running these late night numbers a day or two ago, this is at 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, hey, Belky, we got an issue. And I'm looking and I'm like, all right. So right now we have maybe like 15 to 20 clients or customers. I just want to commit to customers, but
careful.
For the team, it's still clients.
Team?
Whatever it is. Whatever floats your boat. Not freelancers. So point being, I was like, hey, because we also have this free marketing stuff. We do like Naval. We wanted to do this Ollie Army. We wanted to do this other shit. I'm like, say we just did the bare minimum marketing with like Allin and Naval and hired everyone from Ollie Army. Didn't do any of this crazy idea to blitz his content. If we hired out, we're still just break even. Like all this shit, you and I are not making profit with any of this because we have to have like $1,000 upfront for all of these 50 students to cover the trial plus cover hiring people to get in the trial. It'd be like
so
significant cash flow concerns.
The distinction here is like, if you're a venture-backed company, you're offering free trials, you're refunding people when they're not happy, you're sending them Uber Eats credits, like you're doing all that. For us, we realized that 2-week free trial is like make or break for a bootstrapped company. That's everything. Whether it's, unless we were to take on more money or like lines of credit or a loan, it's like that's self-funded. That's the game we play. And this is the first time we're kind of putting the growth cart ahead of the horse, where we actually have burn.
Right. It's scary because, well, the thing with the free trial is different because there's the discount, which is like, okay, with the discount on average, we'll probably still make a little bit of profit, but it's basically call it break even. So like with every part-time YouTuber, like every person that comes through Ali Abdal and that part-time YouTuber Academy, we're not really going to be making money unless we cap it at like you get 3 months of discounted stuff. And then after we make money, we're more so taking it as this is the flywheel. Let's get those people making a lot of content and just being evangelists for us. And it's just like, we're fine not making much money. It's just like Henry and I, can we make enough money for us to live? And beyond that, we don't have any cost because we keep
and
our
with
team
that
really small.
pop, we enter a phone call. One of those phone calls where you keep talking and things keep happening, right? Because the credit cards are mounting. We're like, hey, you're not taking pay this month. I don't know why, but you ain't. Well, I do know why. Cashflow. And we both see this edit, and we're like, simultaneously, we're like, that's never gonna work. We would do this quick fix for them.
Oh, and it was the Buzzsprout edit, right?
The Buzzsprout edit. Yeah, I guess we could put it here.
Yeah.
We could put it here. But we both,
we'll
like, we looked at that. B-roll it. But you won't be able to hear it, I don't think. Sorry.
It's immediately apparent to us. Or not, actually, the first one wasn't immediately apparent, but then this clip was because it was about such a niche topic. Like, a beautiful clip. Andrew, who's working on it, he did just an incredible job. He's one of our like leading Clipt editors right now in terms of just the vision we're going for. So he crushes it, but it's talking about how do you find music for your podcast or your YouTube video. It's like, oh, well, you should go to Epidemic Sound, or maybe you can try YouTube Music Library. And it's like, dude, this isn't gonna go viral.
We're literally that niche. It's not gonna go viral. We're that niche and we don't want to watch it. So imagine how tiny a sliver of the population this video appeals to.
It makes no sense. So our realization is like, hey, if this were us, say we're strategizing with Buzzsprout. We're like, okay, we brought the awesome editor. Let's make sure you're not just telling them to dig holes and then fill them, because that's a waste of time for everybody. And then you're going to cancel and then we're just all going to be upset. Instead, let's look at it like, what would be cool? Well, what about giving the behind the scenes of popular podcasts? Like, how does Caller Daddy produce her podcast? Or how does Joe Rogan produce his? Or just name Naval's podcast. Like, what do these people do? And then like a lot of this stuff, I just want to copy them. So if they're successful, let me just copy their playbook and just find the people that are using Buzzsprout, the most popular creators in the platform. I'm sure there's some big names, and just do their
And
best.
let's story brand it real quick. So if the viewer is the hero of this, it's like, what's their character transformation? They're lost scrolling through YouTube. Now they know how to find royalty-free music for their podcast? Or they're this lost viewer and they see the success story of like what Alex Cooper did, and they're like, oh, I want to start a podcast. If she can do that, I can transform into that. And so it's like, look, the point is though, we got cash flow problems. We have this simultaneous finding that they're approaching growth wrong. And we're like, oh, cash flow plus our idea, Pop, we might be valuable.
We might be an agency.
We might be an agency. I miss the agency days.
We kind of realized, we're like, because I remember I told Yuri, who's one of our advisors, he's like, why'd you guys pivot? Like, you could make a profitable as fuck agency and then just sell that.
Yuri,
don't get these ideas in my head, Yuri. And he's so right, because the agency, you can just bake in a lot of this strategy into it and charge 10 grand, 15 grand a month. And people are like, oh, that's just what agencies cost. Versus now we're at the model of like, oh, we're just charging by the editor. Margins are a little bit tighter and stuff like that. We're like, how do we don't like doing strategy, but Belky's like, let's just charge like $1,000 a call.
We also don't like doing it because we're not getting paid for it.
Right.
And we'll come back to that.
So here, well, a couple things. One, say we went to Buzzsprout and we're like, hey, you're approaching content wrong. Like, you should be shooting behind the scenes of cool creators or some idea like that that's just more widely interesting. And then people are going to learn about Buzzsprout and become indoctrinated. We could say this to them. But one, we have less incentive because we're not paid. So it's just like out of the goodness of our own heart, and also to kind of keep them more successful, which is kind of, I guess that makes enough sense. But there's this other battle of like, say they paid for that. They're like, we're paying for strategy. Then they're trusting us as the experts, and they're more likely to actually act on it. Versus now we're just like, oh, here's a thought. Maybe you act on it, maybe not. But if you're paying for something, you're going to do it. Actually, I sent you the Alex Hormanzi, whatever that dude's name, his My First Million episode.
Yeah.
Super good. He's like, he went to this Russell Brunson, who's a big internet marketer thing. And he's just like, Russell, what do I do? And he gave him this whole like, yo, change your entire business model. Don't go from opening gyms. Teach people how to open gyms and run them successfully.
And so anyways, I walked through it, and he said the sentence that changed my life, which was, Alex, you shouldn't be running gyms. You should be showing gym owners exactly what you showed me. And right now, you're in a level 2 opportunity with a level 10 skill set.
And sell that as a course. He's like, okay. He just trusted Russell. He's like, I paid you. You're the expert. I'm just going to follow your lead. Versus now, if you're not paid, then who knows if they believe we're experts or not. We should potentially pitch ourselves as such.
Well, that's a funny one too. You're on the expert front. You're like, I got all this imposter syndrome. Like, what do I know about shorts? Like, we only sometimes go viral and this, that, or the other. And we're like, wait a minute. Zoom out. Look at our contact list. It's all of the guys from Allin, Hassan Minhaj, people like higher ups at HubSpot. Will Smith, his whole age, like
Naval, the besties, you got all their numbers.
It's like you did that after 9 months. Maybe we don't make the most viral content, but we know somebody doesn't.
we get attention,
right? And our clients are asking, how do you guys get this attention?
Right. Like they make these clips. It's like, how do I get Sachs to share it? And they're basically like asking us, hey, can you tell him to share this? Like, no, but we can give you the strategy that we used. And then if we're stoked about the content, we'll probably retweet it and maybe tag him, so it's more likely. But we're not just going to spoon feed this to Sachs. Like, let's teach you the strategy so that you can do it with Sachs and everyone else. Like, teach a man to fish rather than giving him the fish, basically. So we want to do that, but it's just like, or I don't know if we would really want to do it, but like we kind of have to if we want to survive. And I want to move to New York, and that's kind of expensive. So, well, the point is like, how do we make money?
Right. You start doing the math, and it's like, oh, Okay, if you and I get paid as consultants or coaches, if we get paid for our time, we're one of the largest expenses at the company. We can remove ourselves from payroll at the company, so to speak. And then all these cash flow problems are no longer problems. The company's break even, it's probably profitable. We can grow,
it turns into
we can
Amazon.
do this marketing.
It's like take profits, fund it, put that into growth.
Right.
It's like
it flips the switch immediately if we can just get paid for our time. So that's why it was so enticing.
But it gets us back. It's like, are we just turning into the agency that we tried to avoid with all of this? And it's like, well, we could have just made 2 companies from the start and never had this fucking big headache. So
Forgot about that.
we went into anti-goals mode. We're like, okay, what do we not want to do? Because you're like, we could charge $1,000, $5,000 a call. And I missed like 3 calls that day with people. I just like fucking got the time zones wrong.
Literally.
I just forgot about them. I'm like, I hate calls, dude. I actually don't mind them when we're on them, but the idea of them, I hate. So that is my anti-goal. I don't care how profitable it is. I don't want to get on calls and like be this person. And plus, there was Zach from The Untold, which is, we're doing great content for him and probably up on YouTube now. He asked, he's like, hey, distribution strategy, what should I do? And actually, no, he asked to get on a call to go over this idea for distributing his content. And I'm like, okay, sure, I can get on a call, but really quick, like what's it in a nutshell? And he lays it out, and then I just answer him, and he's like, oh, okay, we don't need a call. That was like a 5-minute
it's so
back and
frustrating. Not Zach, just like society at large. It's so frustrating.
That's like our accounting firm, like our CFO, virtual CFO, I don't know what you call them. They're like, we can't get access to the bank account. Can you hop on a call to go over it? I'm like, I just checked using your login and I got in. Here it is with all the details. You want to try it? And they're like, no, we just booked a call. And I didn't end up showing up to that call. And they're like, oh, you didn't show up, but we tried the login that you sent a week earlier. And it worked. And I'm like, huh.
Dude, I told you, it's like,
B.
it's the classic, I don't want to deal with this right now. So let me just quickly as possible hit him back with an invitation to get on a call and we can deal with it next week. But it's like, it would take 3 minutes.
Unbelievable. I also wonder, like right now, Issa, who my girlfriend I'm living with, she goes into work and she's supposed to go in at like 9 a.m. like a normal job. But then she gets there and the boss is like, oh, actually everyone has to come in at 8 a.m. now. And she's like freaking out. She's like, what the fuck? And I live an hour and a half away and there's not even a train at 6 a.m. So like, what am I going to do? All this stuff. And I'm like, if I were there, she's asking me like, what should I do? And I'm like, first, I'd never be in that situation. But second, if I'm there, I want to know why.
Let me be very clear. I wouldn't be in that situation.
Like prevention is the easiest thing in the world. Just like get something in writing or whatever it is. Like just, I don't know, don't work a job. But
hey, wait, this is like the Sean thing. Prevention is the easiest thing in the world. However, it's in a tight battle with inertia. So it's like Sean saying like the one thing we all want is certainty, but just a close second, we all also want uncertainty. So it's like, yeah, prevention is obviously easier,
example.
but inertia.
What does that mean? I'm trying to.
Inertia makes it hard. Preventing yourself from getting on calls is easy in theory, right? You just say, do this in a message. But the inertia is everything society does just says, can we get on a call? Can we get on a call?
Right. You can't.
Or
really
telling people radical honesty as prevention is good, but the inertia of white lies being like how we operate society makes it
dude, I got
hard.
One of these pods, actually, we should do a book club next. I want to do the book club on how to not die alone or never die alone or whatever it's called. Plus,
never die alone.
Algorithms to live by. Because I have some juicy stuff and it's going to be a lot of, that's a challenging norms episode. Really quick though with Issa, I'd be like, hey, why? Why do I have to come in at 8 a.m.? It's like, are we going to have a little roundup meeting? Okay. Can we just do that later? Or like, why do we need to be synced for that? Why do we need a roundup meeting in the first place? Like, let's try and eliminate it. But she's like this, literally it's her first week there and she's the cog, so she can't really do anything. But it's like, my brain just goes to why with everything. I'm like, why the fuck are we doing this? And I'm like, that I probably wouldn't make a good employee if that were the case, because I just question authority with everything. So Our thing is, why would we have to do a strategy call? What if we just do what we love doing that I just did with Zach? I'm like, what's the nutshell? Well, let's just get the nutshell and do all the strategy in Slack. It's like, hey, you pay. And we had all this like fucking pricing talk for a while, and it was like, pricing's so funky. It's such a goofy thing, but we're like, what should we charge for this? And I'll skip through. We basically settled on like $4.95 a week, and who knows if that'll actually be what gets sold. It's like $4.95 a week. We'll watch all your videos, give feedback on them in frame. We can rip through those. That's pretty easy. And then just bigger picture, like, are we using these editors in the best way possible? Is the raw content good? Is the edit good? Is the distribution strategy good? We look at those 3 rungs and we're like, okay, that's the $4.95 a week, and we just make sure you get the most out of your editor.
And so we rolled that out as quickly as possible. I love on that phone call, it's like you just thinking through, you have this idea, then it's like, no, that gets nixed. And like literally in 5 minutes on a phone call, the whole thing's laid out. It's cool. But we roll that out as fast as possible. Some people nibble, some people want it. We went from like this community-based thing where everyone's in a group to it should probably be like one-on-one in DMs in their private channel, just with us for a bunch of different reasons.
Until it's big enough, then it might have community value.
Right. Now it's like there's not enough social proof where it might actually harm.
Here's what I love, and this is also why I liked that Alex Hormanzi, I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong, I forget what it is, but his episode was just problem solving. That's life. Like, that's what fills you up and like gets people excited about any job, is just like, can I go in and solve problems? And so this problem for us was like, we have no cash flow. We don't want to raise money. That's a last resort. And we still want to grow. And we like this idea of getting Ollie stoked and having an army of just editors ripping his short form, plus having a free trial so that a bunch of people buy his course. But we don't want to raise money. We don't want to charge Ollie. We don't want to do all this stuff. So how do we figure it out given these constraints? And that's why I think we can wake up excited every day, because it's like, oh, here's the problem. How do we fucking make money? And then
like, on top of that, when it works, it's like, it's crack. Like if we sold some of these coaching tiers, like it's crack.
It's so good. I love just checking my email and it's like, oh, you just got $6,000 in invoices or subscription payments today. I'm like, it's funny. It's a little hit, but that's what I love. It's just like, you have the constraints. Start with the constraints. These are them. We have to make money, but we can't do it with fundraising. We can't do it with charging Ollie. We can't do it with XYZ.
But we can upsell. Right, which is
getting to the punchline.
NPC. Oops. That was an oops.
Hey,
right?
But we did it together, right?
Oops. You asking me a question, right?
That was an oops that we both made together.
Oops.
So the oops that I wanted to slip in was having, when you have the constraints and then you have the anti-goals.
No,
and then you
I was the oops, Pop. I stole your punchline.
Well, they're like,
I went straight
the reason
for it.
Oopsing. Yeah, dude, just get to the point. Why have the lead up? No need for foreplay around here on Smart Nonsense.
Why? I'm trying to give you a lasagna of a conversation. A lasagna. Why? Oops. Why?
Oops. Right?
You gotta watch this on YouTube.
All right. So I'm building the thing, Pop, and you're like, well, we kind of just do this anyway. We kind of just like Clipt coaching anyway. We like telling people what they should. Wait, am I oopsing or can I go to the punchline?
No, get to the punchline. I'm just like,
So it's like, okay, and let me talk about my mechanic, because this is what happened yesterday. The van's been in this mechanic shop for a week, okay? It's a lot of money. We got a lot of work done. It's fantastic. This guy was such a straight shooter. Old Mercedes technician, so freaking smart. The smartest, most smart master mechanic I've ever interacted with.
A lot smarter than you.
A lot smarter than me. He's like, anytime you have anything you need to know about this van, text me, call me, whatever. I'm like, that's very nice. He's like, this is what I would do, for it to be safer in this amount of time. I would do this every 50,000. He's just like giving me all the juice. And it's like, if you just this gets back to what we've always done, is if you give and give and give more than you take, like you're going to have customers for a lifetime. I'm never going to go to a different mechanic for this van, ever.
Right.
He's one guy, owns this shop. At the same time, so I'm like, okay, we should model that. We should just give and give and give and give because the in-kind stuff always comes back. But he is getting paid $150 an hour for his labor. So now I'm confused. I'm confused.
Hey, you know what always fascinated me? I remember when we were in college, and my family's split in two. One side is Democrat, the other side is Republican, and my mom, like everyone at Brown, is basically like a Bernie supporter for the most part. And then there's like a small, well, it might even be bigger, but they don't talk about it. There's a small group that like
no, it's probably the minority. They're just louder. Right, most people are probably like,
I don't know,
left of center Democrat liberals.
It's just morally, it's so easy to shit on someone from the right, but like I think everyone's pretty morally in line. But point being, my mom, she'd always say, I'm asking her, I'm like, what do you see in Trump? I don't get it. And she's like, I just trust him. I'm like, trust him? He's lied more than any other candidate in history. And she's like, yeah, but like under it, like obviously he's lying, but he's like speaking to this fundamental truth, and he doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks. He's just gonna say what he feels. He's not trying to like do it because it makes him look good. He often looks bad, but he doesn't give a fuck. So he's just saying what he truly feels, and I trust that he's gonna act on that. It's like whether or not that's actually true, that sentiment is interesting because it's like the straight shooter thing, and you trust this mechanic because he's like, I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat things. I'm just gonna tell you like the sort of radical honesty thing. It's like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just gonna tell you your shit sucks when you do it this way. You have to do it that way. And you're like, oh my God, I trust this person. So
this is how
that was an interesting case study that I think a lot of people don't see when they just block off like every Trump person sucks or whatever it might be.
This is also how I sold a recent client last week who's been just like kicking things around, not subscribing. There hasn't been putting content in the pipeline. And we get on the phone and he's just like, be transparent with me. Like, tell me this or this. Why are you guys making the move to this? Straight. What does it mean for us? You know, we're losing our project manager. What does that mean? He's like, I so appreciate, Henry. I appreciate your transparency. I know you guys are good people. Like, I trust, he literally said, like, I trust you. So then it was a sale. So it's like, okay, well, if we charge him $495 for that call, then what happens? I don't know.
Right. I don't know. It's funky because I also feel guilty. Like, I'd rather just pay people and then, like, it's like why I like buffets because you just pay someone once and it's like, just give me on that.
Right.
I don't know. But point being, we're like, maybe we just, like, this shit's super easy for us for strategy. We see the video. It's a one-liner. Like, why are we trying to optimize value? Let's just give value and then maybe it'll come back to us one day, which is our
maybe. Oops, maybe it'll come back as a Acquihire.
Oh,
how about that?
Television 2 part 2.
How about
I want
that?
a fucking Acquihire, dude.
Okay, here's the problem with the transitions, Pop. They're so good. The transition ends. They're that good.
Nowhere else
now we got to sit here and talk about the transition.
So we're basically burning 20 grand a week. Half of that is for people that don't pay us money. That's coming out of Henry and our literal pockets. We are paying 10 grand a week, which is actually kind of crazy.
I got Valentine's Day coming up.
I know, dude. I don't even want to talk about it, but so part of this blitz, we have 10 grand a week that we're spending on all these editors. How do we make the most use of them? One of these uses was these subtle squats. Like, let's take that formula where we squat on people, like we do this blitz of content, and then we just keep making it. Let's do like the minimum viable version of that squat. So what we came up with was this subtle squat where we take a list of maybe 15 or so creators and we just say, let's take one of their clips and just hit them with it and see what happens. The beauty is, I don't know how it performed overall. I think like we got some bites here and there from the creators directly. But the more important thing is one of those clips for a person named Chung Fan, he posted it, and it's this fucking hilarious clip, which we'll roll here too. He's basically saying MSNBC, I think. MSNBC.
CNBC.
They're all the same to me. I don't watch the news. They interviewed him, and they're like, hey, what should Apple do with all their money? And they're like, well, or was it Disney? I don't even fucking
No.
Apple. Apple.
They asked him that question and they wanted him to come on CNBC and talk about it.
And he's like, right? I have no fucking idea. So he just Googles like, hey, what are some media companies they can buy? Because he's seeing Disney pop off. And he's like, oh, well, they should buy Lionsgate or whatever it is. And it's just funny because he's bullshitting.
I thought he was Googling, how do you go on CNBC? Like, what are you supposed to talk about if you go on CNBC? But I got to go back and watch it.
I thought it was like, what should Apple buy? Regardless, he gets on just because like CNBC offers him a slot, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to fucking turn down a slot. Like, this is dope. He's just like, I'm going to bullshit the whole thing. And he takes the first Google search result, and he's like, that's what they should do. And now it's like, this is Trung's idea. And I'm like, oh my God, Slick Rick, who watches CNBC and all these stock shows all day. I'm like, this is what everyone's doing there. And they just sent this out to the entire country. So point being, that clip goes viral. Trevor Noah retweets it. Probably a lot of other cool people too. It gets like 250,000 views. Amazing. The beauty too is this is exactly the niche that wants to hire us on Twitter alone. If we post it,
that's a lot on Twitter.
Pop off too. Right. Like our normal Twitter clip, if it goes well, is like 50,000 views for all in. So this is awesome.
But here's what's cool about it. It's like Trung isn't directly interested in subscribing to Clipt. But this clip he posted just for fun did so well that people are coming to us through it, right? It's like the distribution hack.
It's the flywheel, dude. And I forgot about the flywheel because I was just thinking like, Trung, why aren't you buying this? But then we look at our DMs and we have like 5 DMs of people that are like, I saw your Trung clip. I want this. How do I get it? And one of those people is a man named Alex Lieberman, who started Morning Brew with another person, something, Leaf, something, whatever.
2 awesome Reef, dudes. Maybe?
Austin Reef. They have, I don't know, probably between all of them and Morning Brew, they have like 500,000 followers. And they're like, oh, I'm interested in this. We go back and forth. I'm like, yo, dude, how about you just rip a little short tonight? Like just script together like a 60-second whatever video, throw it in our inbox, and we'll just make a video for you.
Dude, and he drops. Also what?
Yeah.
I don't want to oops you. I don't want to oops you, Pop.
No, dude. Send it.
He drops like probably the best scripted, put together, outlined story brand clip.
He's a copywriter.
Yeah, a natural. Right. That we've ever worked with, because we usually work with like long form slop. He like shot this thing for us. And he's like, boom, here's a sitting version. Slop. DRD. Here's a sitting version. Here's a standing version. It's 8 p.m. at night. I hope you guys can deal with this. Hey, somebody's outside. And tell him what happened, Pop.
And so he throws this thing in a chat, and we're like, awesome. Looks good. You're a natural. Just pipe them up. Get them all stoked. And then we ship it off to the team. And
wait, no. The funny thing, sorry. The funny thing is it's in Smart Nonsense's DMs. You started the thread by saying it was from Henry for some reason, but you were doing all of the talking. And when Dylan talks, he uses like all lowercase letters and THX for thanks. And Alex started copying that. And then I hopped in sometimes and I don't do that. And Alex started mimicking the punctuation and stuff I was using. So that poor bastard's probably all confused.
We're mimetic creatures, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I think an X and thanks just automatically makes everything chiller. Also, you have a bigger following on Twitter, so I think people respect you more. So I just default to saying I'm Henry. But what is the point? So basically, he shoots this, gets it over to us. We blast it to the team. We're like, you know what? Let's diversify. Let's throw 2 awesome editors on it and see what happens. That way, if he doesn't like one, there's always another one that might be dope too. We're like, guys, this is one of those. If we deliver tomorrow morning, he will be the biggest evangelist of Clipt the world's ever seen. Like this is what sold us. This is what everyone has to experience the minute they come into Clipt. And guess what they do? They spend all day and night grinding, and they drop fucking bangers. This Mr. Beast, what is it? Eatables?
Feastables.
Feastables, yeah. Feastables edit which it was like, we could see, oh, there are improvements to be made, but it's so good for this overnight edit. We're like, we just got to ship it back to him. And so he actually messages us at like around noon or 1.
As I was uploading it.
The edits are, right. He
As I'm
literally
uploading,
messages,
he's like, just so I know, like, when can I expect these? And I'm like, now, right this minute. 10 hours later. How about that? No!
What was his response? I got to pull it up.
What was that Chris D'Elia when he's flying out of the plane? Talk to, that's cool.
Fuck. Okay, cool.
No.
The Chris D'Elia, where he's like, dude, how does
Dan Bilzerian.
Like Dan Bilzerian, he's just constantly around all these 10s, which is awesome. But it's 24/7. It's like, who the fuck wants to fly in a plane to New York City from LA with 7 to 10 thoughts? That's a worst nightmare, dude. I would get on the plane and you hear one girl, she's like, God, I don't like butchering his stuff, but she's like, the funniest thing
but before you say what she says, it's like, the sex is great, the hot girls are great, but what about everything after that? What about all of the in-between? Just sitting. Dude, what about that? And then what'd they say?
You don't want the in-between.
What did the girls say?
I don't really remember. It's like, oh, the funniest thing happened to me. I stubbed my toe or something stupid like that. I'm like, oh my
Damn,
God.
where's my phone?
Right. And they're all just taking photos of each other. He's like, oh, as he's opening the door, he's like, oh, that's awesome. And he jumps oh, God damn, I hate ruining shit. It's
and then he's
bad.
talking to
it's
a bird.
Really
he's like, bussin' and coming. I get bussin' and coming, but hanging? I get it. Bussin' and coming, but hanging? And he does it 4 times. And that's how this whole pod comes full circle. Because I remembered it.
So basically, he responded, Alex just said, this is so exciting. Left it at that, which is basically like, okay, he's cooking up something good. I'm like, yeah, you're a beast. Awesome. He's like, yo, give me the download link. This shit's fly. I'm going to try and get Mr. Beast to see it. And then we're like, yeah, no charge. Just let us know if you want to keep making this magic. He's like, dude, 100%. Love it. Let's keep working together. And then he's like,
I'm smiling ear to ear.
He's fucking
Didn't
stoked.
he say that?
And then at the end, I don't know, probably. He's like,
I'm at lunch, Pop. I'm at a nice Indian food buffet lunch. That's where I'm at.
Oh, true. I was pissed because you fucking ditched. It was just me the whole day by myself. No one's talking to me.
Ding dong ditched.
This message comes right onto my plate because I'm pretending to be you. He's like, LOL. I sent the video to my co-founder and his response was, we should acquire these guys. Spelling
Acquihire.
it like Acquihire. ACQUI hire. We should
Which is
acquire these guys.
And consume all of our talent to work for them.
Right. Which I don't know if he knows the scale of the beast we're building, but they're valued at like 75. They're probably like at $100 million by now.
Well, Pop, he also didn't know how desperate we were.
He did.
You gotta get him on
vulnerable. Right. So I'm texting
So we're freaking out.
Like, oh, I'm sweating. I texted you and I'm like, dude, we might want to think about this. I'm like, you know,
he texted me and my dad. I'm
texting everybody. No one's responding to me.
Yuri.
Right. I'm like, someone's got to be out there. We just got a like joking buyout offer and I'm debating it. I might sell this company for $400. You've got to get on the line.
$4.95 per
I'm
week.
tweaking out. I'm like, this might be the solution to all our cash flow problems. Then we don't have to do that bullshit strategy where we charge $4.95 a week and try and like suck every dollar out so that we can go feed ourselves. It's like, no, let's just have Lieberman either buy us out or do like this massive Morning Brew Media 1-year contract that has like 10 editors for $250,000. Just give it to him at cost as long as he pays up front. And we just live happily ever after. And we can grow this however we want because we have so much cash in the bank. Granted, that
dude,
burned
and
out pretty quick.
The comedic irony or justice that when we started this beast, Sampar's only wish was don't work for Morning Brew unless you run it by me first. They drop us. We sell out to Morning Brew and it's all over.
Immediately,
But no,
dude,
Pop,
imagine...
he was probably just joking. He was just mostly being lighthearted. And we're left with our problems.
When we're desperate, I was refreshing my Twitter so much. I'm like, give me over $100,000 and I'm out. No. I texted Yuri too. I'm like, here's the thing. He's like, dude, sell out. And I'm like,
immediately.
Nah, I don't know. We have something big here. It's a lot of fun hanging with Belky, solving problems. Like, we really like it. And there's a pretty big vision. He's like, dude, if they offered you $5 million, you wouldn't? Like, no, sir.
I don't think so.
Granted.
Maybe on the order of 20,
hard.
50. But
yeah,
they won't. I think what's exciting is building a team around them and, like, you know, solving some of our shorter term problems because we do have something bigger.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like in theory versus in practice, I'd love to see a little term sheet and see what I actually do. But it's one of those things where why I love rework is like all these people in Silicon Valley, when they fundraise, they're expected to grow like crazy and then do an IPO and sell out in 5 years or less. It's like, well, then what do you do? It's like the fun part about business is doing business. Solving problems. Like we love that about 37 Signals, like their companies. They're just constantly going in. They created the environment that they love. It's like, why would we try and do something different? Like usually your one idea, like Clipt for us, that's the best idea you'll ever have. So if you sell out now, what are you going to do? Like try and start another company that's just going to be shittier? That's embarrassing.
Oh,
like Saks.
here's the
Colin,
cliffhanger.
for example.
Epicenter Enterprises. I don't think we've talked about that on here. Did we?
Oh,
the Q's
I
deep.
do.
The Q is deep.
I do kind of like that idea. Hey, don't get me off track. But I really like the idea of just having Epicenter Enterprises, and all we do is go into companies and we're like, oh, there's actually a good tweet.
No, we take them on we take good cash flowing companies on Microacquire. We hop on them and then we just cut out all the bullshit. Get everything down to the epicenter.
Right. Which is like, what do you not need? Let's cut it out 80-20 everything. It's like you just need 3 people. And then we stack on top of that our media knowledge to grow virally. I'm like, oh my God, we could 10x companies in 6 months. And then we just flip those companies. I don't necessarily want to do that. I like committing to one thing that sounds more fun to me than like being schizophrenic and ADD the whole time. But I know that's kind of like your workshop idea. So it's just all interesting. I like what we're working with now and I want to grow the fuck out of it.
Oh, it's just sick.
I see how valuable it is. Hopefully, if we have like some sort of cool Morning Brew contract, that would solve our cash flow issues and we don't have to do this thing where we're like just trying to sell our consulting or our coaching to make ends meet. But it is interesting. It is one of those Amazon, they didn't make profits for 20 years and then out of nowhere, they're just the most valuable company in the world. And it's like, oh, okay. That's right. That's kind of the road we're thinking we're going to go down.
The hope is as soon as we turn on the Ali Abdaal faucet, it's flipping that kind of burn to massive profit switch. Pop.
Hey, before you fall asleep, hold on. Let me make sure.
What happened?
I had like brainwashing all the default to DUCT. Oh, last thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about.
Oh no.
Certainty. I want to talk about
certainty. He wants to talk. Oh, okay. Your little bot? Techy?
So,
wait, we got this funny thing going on where like we were both, we're not technical. We need to find a CTO. And then finally we watch enough shit. We're like, it's not really that hard. You just got to commit to being technical. And now it's just a race to who's going to become techie first.
It's so fun. No, it's one of those things where it depends how you approach a new subject. Like the first thing is why I loved your approach to this techie thing is like you just one day embrace the identity. I'm just techie now. That's just my thing.
Yeah, I went on.
And now I'm going to like
it was on the pod.
consistently reinforce it.
They were like, what's
Oh,
your
you
role at
declared
the
you're
company? I was like, software engineer. I was signing up for like Zapier. I was like, I'm the engineer. So I'm just going to assume that label now and then, figure it out.
And I love it because most people my problem, which I realized, I was just like, oh, it's too late. I don't get the technical side. But then I'm like, well, why? I don't think I really want to code. Like, I don't want to be deep in the weeds, like trying to figure out all this stuff necessarily. Because that's always scared me. It's like, maybe I do want to do it. Kind of playing around with that bot. I was kind of excited, but that's like a bubble version.
It's fun. But you don't have to talk to anyone.
Yeah, that was one of our big realizations. Like, we're building, like, why we didn't like the agency is because we had 50 people, and if we wanted to scale, it'd have to be like 100 people, 200 people, and it's like, oh, we don't want to do that. That's just so much of managing headaches, and it's just hierarchies everywhere. Let's just build a little bot and have it do everything. But I was too scared because I'm like, oh, I can't learn this. It's too late. And I had all these limiting beliefs, like, this sucks. I'd try and take that Harvard CS50 course, and I'm like, oh, this is like, I don't want to go and code and shit like that. But then I read this book that I think you recommended and a lot of other people. Well, you recommended the How to Never Die Alone, but Algorithms to Live By. And it's fascinating. It's like not direct in the weeds computer science, but it's like, let's apply some of the cool theories in computer science. And it talks all about the history of just computing and solving problems and how, like, everyone's like, oh, a computer can always get the perfect problem. I actually like this example where they had a speed chess competition between the world champion speed chess guy, I think his name's Hikaru something, and this robot. And what's funny is everyone's like, oh, the robot should win. But when you have this time constraint, the robot can't compute every possible great answer. So it was getting behind on the clock. And then Hikaru, all he did was just make super fast moves. And the robot's trying to compute all the best moves for every single one. But he was just doing this bullshit strategy of just moving it every time. So point being, I loved all these little examples of like how the two worlds collide. And now I'm more into it than ever before. I'm like, oh, I can be techie because I like this. Then Slick sent me this thing about APIs last night. I read the whole article.
I got to read that today. Let me actually pull that up. So I think the limiting belief there, and this is actually important for people, is like when we think of, like when my dad thinks of software engineering, to him, like it's that same thing. Like, I'm too late. God, you text me a lot. Where's that article? I'll find it. But
I know,
like, it is
that's
too
the
late.
problem. I can never find shit.
But the thing is, when the hard stuff is when we're talking about like machine learning, AI, stuff that's never been done before, Web3 stuff, like the tiny sliver of the weeds of software development, of like the new stuff. Everything else has been done before. It's like putting formulas in an Excel sheet. It's like conditional stuff, like ifs and elses and whatever. And then it's like knowing how to work with APIs. It's like, what information do I pass into an API? And what's it going to give me out?
Here's the cool thing about
it's
APIs,
just not that crazy.
That article basically. It's
let
like,
me pull it up.
Why are APIs amazing? And actually, you were watching that YouTuber guy that just codes for 4 hours straight and builds Spotify or builds Uber. And for the most part, he's just working with APIs. And the beauty of APIs is this. You have a company, say, take a Stripe, for example, or I don't know, maybe not everyone knows Stripe, but Stripe basically allows you to easily charge payments. That's what we use on our website. Take Stripe. They take their entire company and all their resources, say like hundreds of software engineers constantly working on this problem of how do we make payments easier and seamless online. Plus, they have all their legal team going and making sure that banks coordinate with credit card companies and they're negotiating the best deals. They do all this work, and then they put this little API. It's like, just tap in, and you get the entire work of our whole company at your disposal for this super low fee. It's like, oh my God. You're basically taking Stripe and putting them in-house. And all you got to do is just know how to connect. And that's what
even better than in-house.
Is
because you can be
better.
one person using that API.
Like us, we're nothing.
They even dude, the documentation gets me so jazzed up.
Sexy.
The code snippets, they give you everything if you just commit to reading.
That's their business model.
I don't know all
their business model is like,
yet.
Let's make it easy to connect and then just charge by usually the ping. Like, how often do you need to access that data? They'll charge you for that. So you have someone like Shopify. Shopify uses Stripe as I think they call it whatever, the API. They use their API, and it's like, Shopify, you're a, I don't know, $100 billion company, whatever they are. Why don't you just build this in house? Why don't you do what Stripe's doing? It's like, well, why would we do that? Like, let's just focus on that one differentiator that makes us amazing, and just API the entire rest of the company. So that way you can move faster than everyone else. You differentiate. Point being, I'm fascinated by this now. I'm not quite technical enough, but it's one of those, you have to appreciate the why, the applications, before actually caring about the how. And now I get the why. I'm like, why? We can build a much better company that just scales so fast without having anything in-house. That's amazing. Like, we're effectively the video API for other companies. That's why they just tap into us, unsubscribe whenever you're done. It's like disconnecting the API.
And then you use a tool like Zapier really quick that breaks it down. It's like, we can tap into all these APIs. So now when we get a Stripe payment, Zapier is reading that through the API, and we can tell Slack to do something, and we send an onboarding email, and we put, invite the person to a Slack channel. And it's just like, we've done that probably 10 times in the last 2 weeks, and it's all automated.
There was this, I don't know if I know the example like perfectly well, but in that article about APIs, it was cool because if you come in with the right mindset, like, what's possible, which is really all we want to know, is like, just know what's possible, and then we'll figure out how it's done. This guy came in with the mindset, he understands APIs, and there's this thing called Twilio, which is lets you like send messages and calls through their service, and it's an API. But he had this, they were trying to do like Airbnb for office space, I think. But the problem was, anytime that someone wanted to come into the office space, they'd have to buzz in, and someone had to be in the studio to accept them. But he's like, oh, this is remote. Like, I'm never in the studio. How do we figure this out? Well, they had it buzz in, and then it like connected through Twilio to his phone, and he set up an autoresponder bot on his phone to like input the code or whatever to buzz that person in. It's just like these little problem solving things that if you didn't know you could use Twilio, you'd never figure it out, and you'd be like, this company can't exist. But now it can, because of this.
What's interesting too is you might not know Twilio exists, but if you have this problem, maybe 100 other people have, just start Googling. Like you did early days in Smart Nonsense. You're like, what's the easiest way to make comments on a video for remote teams? It's like, boom, there's Frame. There's your tool. Right. You did this like 3 different times with early Smart Nonsense. It's like, that is the same knowledge of technicality as it is to actually go into the APIs. It's kind of cool.
And one thing really quick, I know we're going to wrap up and I'll get back to this fucking progress bar thing. But I remember talking to our friend Jack in Chicago here, and he's working at Citadel. We almost had him on a pod that went live. Never went live. It was 3 hours, but whatever. And he's talking about how he's into crypto, and he thinks a lot of the things that Citadel did, say 30 years ago, is possible in trading on crypto platforms right now. And I'm like, I'm so stupid. I don't even know where you'd get started. Like, what does he actually do? Where he's like, oh, I just created a bot, and it just trades on all these, like whenever I see the price go here, and I like make sure there's enough alpha and all this shit. And I'm like, where do you get started there? It's like, oh, you go to a big database, and usually they'll have an API, and you just pay per ping or whatever they call it. And every time you want to access that data, say 500 times a day, it'll just check, and it'll trade if it sees the numbers here. I'm like, oh, that's so simple. It's like, I just read a little Python code that'll trade if the number looks like this, and like, this is what the formula spits out. I'm like, I didn't have an idea of like how you'd even start that problem. He's like, dude, just API and Python bot. It's like, over.
Yeah.
So
see, now I'm still at the point where like, I'm like, I don't really know how to write code. And I've got this big mystery in my head. It's like, the terminal really confuses me. It's like, how do you start a project? And what's your compiler? Like, what's it running on? That's very confusing to me still. It's like, what runs the project? I get the why, I get, some of the how, I get the frameworks, but I don't know where to start yet.
Well, it's
no
kind of
tools.
like that other article where we had Ian on the podcast, and he's talking about, this whole thing about Web3 being awesome, but then no one's actually using Web3 decentralized. They're mostly using these centralized companies on top of it. Like Coinbase, for example. I won't say the other examples because that might get him in trouble. But they make it easy to interface with the actual blockchain itself. Same thing with OpenSea. Like they're just making it easy to interact with the blockchain, but they're their own company on top. Same thing here with like the terminal just feels like I'm interacting with the blockchain, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Give me Zapier. That's just what I want.
Right.
That's why that's so successful.
But it's like baby steps. It's like, oh, okay, now I understand what Zapier is doing. How do I do that custom in
right?
Like I don't even know what program you would use on Mac to write code. Right now, that's where I'm at.
No idea. Makes no sense.
But you just Google it. I just have it.
But circle back. So the nice thing about
techy.
Slack is they have the little JV techy version of what we're trying to do. Oh no! Before we even get into that shit,
duct tape.
The beauty, there's like a danger. There's this danger to being too technical. We saw it with Colin. They're like, they just want to code things from the start. It's like, what's the easiest way we could try and test this today? Like no code written. What does this look like? And let's try and make $100 today. I love that framework. Same thing with this problem that we had where we wanted clients to have a pretty way of seeing this is the progress bar in the video. Because if you use something like rev.com for transcripts, or say you're even getting an Amazon package delivered, it'll say like, oh, it's in transit, or in Uber Eats. It's like, it's at this stage of the process, and it puts you at ease, and they'll give you an ETA. And you're like, okay, now I know I can plan my life this way. Versus, I think an example, maybe it was in Algorithms to Live By, but it's like, say you show up at a bus stop, and all you know is like, there's no bus here right now. You don't know when the next one's coming. But if you put a sign that's like, oh, this is the bus ETA, now you're allowed to make infinite decisions versus, or like you make one decision, oh, am I going to stay until the bus comes? Versus every second you're like, should I stay? Should I stay? Should I stay? Until the bus comes. So it just eases a lot of that burden. And that's what
you were talking
about. So how
about,
do we make this
no, you were,
clients to see?
No, wait. You were talking about the danger of being too technical.
Oh, yeah, keep me on
Did you
track.
get over that?
No.
The danger.
So, the danger
Close
is this.
the loop.
The danger is like, you have the skills. If you, what is that Charlie Munger thing? It's like, to the man with a hammer, everything's a nail. It's like, to the techie, everything is a coding problem. So you're just trying to like figure out how to code this bot to do X, Y, Z. It's like, well, let's assume we don't have technical skills first. How can we just duct tape this problem together? And that's what I wanted to do. I'm like,
because maybe nobody wants
progress bar. Right, let's test it before even.
Or maybe it's not the final
weeks and weeks or months and months. And I think a lot of startup entrepreneurs fuck up in that regard. We don't want to make that mistake. So I was like, how can we get this progress bar? I'm like, well, let's just get a pretty version. Fucking hell. I forget the sequence of like trials I was doing.
Hold on.
I'm like, right? Yeah.
So, on that note, right, you didn't even get to the duct tape. Kevin Systrom of Instagram, they put out a very early Instagram very fast. They want to just test it. And they're having this problem. It's like, it takes too long to upload. People want, when they hit upload, they want their thing on Instagram. And it's like, okay, you could go write the algorithms that compress the thing and in the background kind of upload stuff and do all this, and it'd take 3 months to build that product. Or he's like, we're just going to assume if somebody's writing a caption, they're about to upload the photo. So we're just going to upload it before they press the button. And he's like, do everything you can to just duct tape your product together till you get to product market fit. And you'll be better off.
It's
right. So he was
hilarious.
like, default
like,
to
I remember,
duct tape.
Right. Just prove that the problem exists. And then once you have the money, you can actually build what the real solution. Like right now, I think, Belky, you've been trying to build this website with the dashboard for clients that and the chat, and like everything just lives internally at Clipt. It's like you just go there and everything's there. I'm like, well, what's the duct tape version? Let's just use a bunch of Slack connects. Their entire $30 to $100 billion company just goes into making Messenger easy. Let's just API into Slack, use them, and then let's duct tape the solution for this progress bar. Like, let's figure that out. So
right, because by the time I'm done building the website, we're not even Smart Nonsense Media anymore.
Right.
So it's like, what, you're going to spend
sense. We
6
changed too
months?
fast.
Just, yeah.
So what do we do?
Progress bar
The
pop.
first thing,
Look at that for context. That was good. That's all the context
Version
you'll ever
1.
need.
dude, this podcast, because we shoot so rarely, it's just context. That's all this podcast is.
Context
90%
pod.
context. Hey, we'll shut up in a couple minutes. Don't worry. But really quick, the first solution, V1, was, hey, just type out like 80% done. ETA is this time and any other deets. Just type that out. But I'm like, this looks shitty. What can make that look cooler? My first idea was, I don't know if it was my first idea, but one of my ideas was, hey, what if we
It was
put,
the first
like,
one you tested.
here's the progress. Here's the progress. And just a little Slack for those of us that use Slack, you can like react. So it's instead of like a thumbs up or something, you can get more creative and use real emojis. I'm like, let's just put the emojis for whatever percentage done you are. And it looked fucking terrible. And
I lost
you're like,
my shit.
Pop. Not we'll show the messages, but not only
8101, because it's got the number of how many
right,
times
like Slack
you
counts
reacted.
the amount of emojis.
The fact of
looked
the matter
brutal.
is, though,
and I'm like,
it works. Even that works. If you can just remind people to do that every day. So it's like, that's a great starting point.
well, here's the thing, right? We just throw a lot of shit at the wall, and I think that's why we get a lot of issues with our transition and what we've been doing as a company, is because we just like iterating really fast, because that's how we get to a solution really fast. So I'm like, okay, that wasn't it for doing the little reacts, but I like how the emojis look. Like, let me play with that. And I'm like, let's just take the react out. What if we just sent the 80, the block 8 and the block 0? It's like, that looks a little bit more visually appealing. I'm like, what about not taking the numbers? What if we just recreate the whole fucking status bar just in these little green or white blocks? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me see what that looks like. And then I'm like, oh my God, that looks like it shows up big. So I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, fuck, no, I ruined the punchline. I forget the other one. I forget
Oops! You forgot the static image, Pop. You oopsed
I forgot
yourself.
how stupid I was, dude. I oopsed
You
myself,
oopsed
dude.
yourself.
Oh, I forgot how stupid I was.
I'm reading these texts, and
I
I'm like,
forget
Pop, you're fucking stupid. 8-0. And then he's like, you know what? You're right. Fine. Let me iterate on the next thing. And lo and behold, I'm sitting with family at this point. Athena's cousins, they've taken us in because the van's broken. They're being very kind. I'm sitting in public. They're all watching TV. And in comes the image. The next iteration of Pop's ETA bot. It's a fucking static image. Progress bar. 40%. It's terribly red. And he crops in. And I'm like, Pop, that's even worse. And then he crops out and it's a Google search. It's a Google search for progress bar. It's like Excel sheet. Stupid. And I lost my shit. I lost my shit.
There are a couple mental models you can use. You're like, how do I approach problems? I'm like, what would it look like if it were easy? Let's not try and fucking react. Let's just take a Google image. Someone already has a progress bar image. That'd be funny as shit if like every day it's some new image. And we kept talking in the chat and it's like, it turns into like some stupid image where it's like 80 in some small corner. It doesn't look like a progress bar, but you're looking for what's the number for
a battery icon.
There's like
80%.
Happy 44th birthday. It's like, what the fuck are these cons doing?
74% of Americans own guns or whatever. It just keeps getting more and more obscure. And then yours is like just Philadelphia. There it is, Pop.
We'll show the messages. But at the end of the day, we iterated really fast. Some ideas were better than others. This last one seemed to be the best. We're like, let's just take the blocks. And I'm like, okay, we want these blocks, but it's kind of hard to make this block sequence every time. So what would this look like?
It's like Wordle. Wordle blocks.
Yeah. We'll show images of what it ends up looking like. But I was like, oh, let's just have I don't know, all these like nitty gritty problems that I was just solving. And it was so much fun because I'm like, oh, how can we have the whole team have access to every single percentage version of these blocks? But if I did it a certain way, we'd have to add it to every channel. It's really annoying. So I'm like, what would it look like if it were easy? Let's just do one block that gets sent to the main channel. We're like, hey, team, just copy whatever block percentage makes sense and then add your deets in that channel. And it's just like,
right. So if you look, and for the audio people,
this massive Wordle.
For the audio people, every single day in our full group messaging, this giant block goes out, and each row is like 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, all the way down. And you just go across and you copy the one you need, and then you paste it in your chat, and you've got your ETA. It's sick, Pop.
It actually looked really pretty. We got one for All in this morning.
Well, right. So you Google, like, how do you send an automated message on Slack? And then you find this thing called Workflow. It's like, okay, now you install Workflow to the channel. How does Workflow work? It sends this thing every day. And then I don't know how, but you put in this thing where, like, if you don't know what's going on, you can click this thing and it gives you an example. It's sick because now you don't have to explain that to every single new editor that comes on the platform. It's just there. That's the beauty of code.
So we're getting more technical as we go. We're just solving problems. I don't think we're going to sell this company because it is fun solving problems together. We'll see though. Who knows? Lieberman might hit us back. I got a Twitter message, not a DM.
Oh, another
Lieberman.
code.
Bummer. Looks like we're going to keep
another
building
code. Baby step is like Bubble's a great no code tool. I'm just poking around on Google. I found out people make templates for Bubble, so you can get 80% of what you need in a template. And then swap out a logo and change a little flow. Fiverr? It's like there's a Fiverr Bubble template. It's like
Belky,
just poke around the internet. It's crazy.
Did we want to talk? I know we want to shut this bitch down, but I like the idea of what we did with. Okay, I'll just say it really quick. What I liked about Ollie before we go is we just came in and we offered so much value. I wish I connected to the value thing before, but I don't transition well.
Or when we were talking
so
about
much
Ollie.
value to Ollie and trust and all that stuff. He just trusts us. He trusts us because we come in with so much energy, enthusiasm, and we're only giving. We've only created content for him without ever charging him anything. And we're so stoked about it that we're like, hey, Ollie, here's our idea. Can you let us rip? You just give us logins to your TikTok and create a new channel for us that's affiliated with yours. But give us the logins. We're going to control it. We're going to post everything there. And we're going to give you also content for your main channel. He's like, we've never really talked to him. He's just like, yeah, stoked. Let's do it. It's like flash back like 6 months. Could you envision Ollie never meeting the guy in person, only having this choppy call with him when he was in a hotel room like 3 months ago? He's now today saying, yeah, here's the logins to some of my social channels. Like, you guys just post at will. Fucking rip it.
That's sick. Long-term games with long-term people. I love business
because everyone gives up. I think that's the point. It's like people would just give up. They're like, oh, for example, with, I don't know, before, like, All In wasn't sharing our stuff. Oh, let's just make a TikTok and post it all ourselves. Like, take it under our own control. Here,
those are
Ollie,
doing so
we don't
good.
Want to bottleneck them. We just like, hey, can we get the logins? Like, just ask and just figure out a way to take everything under your own control. Same thing with Issa, what she should do right now. Like, just fucking don't be a victim. Just figure out how you solve the problem. That's my favorite shit in business. So,
yeah, it is. It is, Pop. Man,
long
these are exciting.
podcasts. We're tired.
Watch us on YouTube.
We got approved for a credit card.
What? It's nice. That was
the
good.
tea went out the door. Huh?
You reduced my spending limit. That was sad. You know, transitions are hard. When you only get so much transition juice in a day, and you're telling me I got to transition out of this thing?
Oh,
that's what you're telling me right now.
Did you ever listen to? Listen to me. Did you ever listen to that This Week in Startups with the GoPuff founder?
It's okay, Pop. Let me take you down another rabbit hole. I go through waves on YouTube. You're having the same problem last night, right? My algorithm sometimes rocks and rolls. And sometimes it's just the shit. And right now, like, my watch later is just not good videos. So that one you're talking about, it's at the top.
I sent
but
you
every
a good
time
video.
I see it and watch later, I don't want to watch it. I'm not in the mood. It's not right. See, this is what I want. I want more Sunny. I want tech algorithm right now. That's what I want. It's like we learned 0 to 1, then we read books on running a bigger company. Now I just want to watch tech videos. I watched Sunny last night. He's building Airbnb.
Oh, Sunny is the guy that codes everything?
Sunny, yeah. I got it. It's been sitting there, Pop. It's been sitting there. So that's how we were going to end this thing I didn't watch.
When you do. That's also
we gotta
like,
go,
I stopped. Hey, really quick though, let's
Angel
just
keeps thinking
Angel, you're hanging out
Angel
with us.
keeps thinking it's over, and then she's like, "They wrapping up. Oh, now I gotta add another chapter."
She sees Premiere. the timeline's there. She's right. She's like,
yeah,
how do
but
I add
it's another
chapters when you're
chapter.
No, dude.
What chapter is this? This chapter's talking about adding chapters? What the fuck?
End on a high note. Got it!